Hello, everyone, and welcome to my next episode of podcast Minecraft Peace. I'm your host, Katarina Newbury, and it's my great pleasure to have Meera Ishaya with me today as my guest. Welcome, Meera.
Thanks, Katarina. It's lovely to be here. I'm really excited to chat with you.
Oh, me too, me too. And as mentioned to you just before we started, what we couldn't have planned it better to meet on the first day of spring, on the spring equinox, the day of new beginnings, lots of new energy. So yeah, I'm really pleased we're meeting on this day. And I met Meera via the wonderful world of LinkedIn. Who would know? Who would have guessed that LinkedIn is also a platform for people who are meditation teachers. So let me introduce Meera to you because that's what we need to do now. So Meera Ishaya is a monk, an Ishaya monk and author, and a meditation teacher who specializes in helping people go beyond pain and suffering to experience peace, joy, fulfillment, and freedom. And she uses ascension techniques that take you beyond the thinking mind to the direct experience of pure awareness and peace. And I think that's a beautiful opening. And then we already kind of jumped on the wave of calm and peace. Just as I was reading it out, I was kind of, just connecting to that space of pure awareness and peace. And I love that you use those words because for my business, my tagline is peace, joy, and connection. So there's a theme. So we're obviously meant to connect. Is there anything else you would like to say about yourself for the introduction?
No, not really. I mean, you've kind of said it all, really. For me, my mission in life, my purpose in life is to help people in the same way as I've been helped, to sort of pay it forward and to let people know what is possible. Because I've come from a whole world of pain and suffering. And now every moment, regardless of what's thrown at me, sometimes you can get a little bit of a wobble or triggered by something because you haven't quite surrendered fully. But the majority of the time, it's like almost like you get in this untouchable state of being where there is just this endless experience of peace. And I feel very blessed to have that experience. And you want to share that. You want others to know how accessible it is. That's the thing. It's so easy when you know how and you have the effective techniques and guidance. The ongoing guidance has always been important for me. I have a spiritual teacher. And that for me is I nurture my own experience and then I can pass that on to everyone that I support with my courses and my books.
Wonderful. Yes, we'll definitely talk about the books. I just briefly reflect on what you've just said. It's the sentence that you said that it's the state of peace is available to all of us. I think that's a big one for me as well, is that for many people, this is almost like science fiction, isn't it? And they may not be aware that there is an option to live differently. That's just how it is. That's life. And it can be a little sad, but at the same time, it's a massive opportunity, I think. So we're very much on the same line when it comes to that. So I guess what everyone listening now is probably very much interested in is what brought you to meditation and why did you go down that route?
For me, I started exploring meditation very unsuccessfully for many years, with maybe the odd fleeting moment. And I think I was always hungering for more. Like there was just this really strong feeling in me that there had to be more to life than I was currently experiencing. Like I kind of knew I had this such an immense power within me that I was kind of aware of, but it felt like it was inaccessible and sometimes worked against me. you know.
Mm.
And so I'm like, there's got to be a way, there's got to be a way. And so I was always exploring, and I think really I kind of gave up on all of that. You know, I got caught up in the trappings of life, you know, in long-term physical pain with a condition I have, which I actually still have, and yet the pain element is not here anymore. So I think for me, I was pushed. It was like wake up call after wake up call. I was pushed to, you know, follow my desires, follow what I actually want, follow that underlying belief that I had that there had to be more to life than this, and life could be easy, it could be lived in harmony and peace with everyone, you know. And so
Mm.
yeah, I think that really it's like the saying, you know, when you're ready the teaching appears. And so as that kind
Mm.
of got more, I think sometimes it was my desperation got more because I was struggling so much, but I think
Mm.
within that was like the push, you know, to me to actually go, right, well, come on then, what is there? And then when I started looking, it's just like thing after thing after thing popped up until I found the Ishayas. And when I found the
Mm.
Ishayas, in a way, the searching ended.
Mm.
But the journey began, if that makes sense. So like I think
Mhm.
I was searching for something, and the Ishayas have given that to me. But that was really just opening up the journey now with the tools that actually allow me to have the pure experience, you know, of peace, of pure awareness, rather than being subject to what the thinking mind dictates, you know, because it is like it's like having a virtual reality headset on. The mind tells us how to see, how to hear, how to feel everything, and it's a very limited experience. So
Mm.
yeah, I think it was that more, I just knew there was a greater experience, a big picture version of life. And yeah, that drive and that passion just got stronger until I found these shires.
Mm. I love that. I love that you talked about sensing a power within you, and also the fact that you had to go through the points of where you were really pushed to finally, well, you talk about surrender. I wonder if for those who um, maybe are new to meditation, or are just interested in it, or even are skeptical about, does this stuff, what was this stuff for? It wouldn't work for me. Um, what would you maybe share at this point about the tradition that you practice and you're a monk of, and how it can help?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about
Mm.
meditation, and quite a few of them actually I shared. You know, like some people think it's just for hippies, or new age types. It's spiritual. It's not for them. Whereas for me, it's, you know, particularly the ascension techniques, they're mechanical. So it's literally just a redirect of your attention from the thinking mind onto the pure awareness that the thoughts exist within.
Mm.
So, you know, it's actually very scientific in a way, and very
Mm.
tangible, and very down to earth. And that's what I liked about the Ishayas. It's not a religious organization, but it is spiritual. And for me, spiritual is actually just learning who and what you are. Um, it's not as strange or ethereal or out there as
Mm.
we believe it is. So
Mm.
so basically, really, the ascension techniques take us beyond belief, so we can have the pure, clear experience of this moment
Mm.
without the mind coming in and dictating what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and our experience, and limiting that. It's like it puts our experience in a box, the mind, and we
Mm.
can only then experience what our mind tells us to. And so for me, meditation is always the ability to go beyond that. It's like you've got two operating modes, the thinking operating mode and the pure awareness operating mode. And
Mm.
like it's so natural. We're born in innocence. We're
Mm.
born with this natural operating mode, and we adopt. It's like we're the hardware.
Mm.
Pure awareness is the hardware, and then thoughts and the thinking programs are the software that we download into our unconscious mind. So actually that's unnatural. And the natural thing that meditation is, it takes us back to that original
Mm.
operating mode that is unhindered and unaffected by the thinking mind. And thoughts in and of themselves aren't a problem.
Yeah.
So for me, meditation is taking back your freedom, taking back the right you have to choose for yourself consciously what you want, rather than the unconscious patterns that you have agreed with, you've downloaded them unwittingly from a very young age. So for me, meditation is all about freeing yourself so that you can actually choose what you want to say, what you want to do, and literally just to be yourself, rather than the mask on. You know, we've all learned to put a mask on and pretend in certain situations, like in your work setting you're like this, in your home setting you're like this, with your friends you're like this, and it's just, you know, get rid of all of that and just be yourself in every setting. And that's it's such a relief. It's so much more relaxing, and that's where the peace just finds you, because you're not trying, you're just being. All the doing falls away, and you're just being.
Yes, amen to that. It reminded me of this morning. I was walking to our town, and I encountered two mums with babies in a buggy, and both of them, we made eye contact with the babies, and you just see the purity of their being in there and then, because they're not drowning in thoughts. You know, they're you know, too small to have the mind thinking, and thoughts of the mind is what gets us into trouble and causes the pain and suffering. But it was just such an experience, and a reminder that this is what you've just described. This is who we are. We are being here, you know, with whatever goes on, but the natural state of our being is peace, and, you know, all is well. And yeah, stuff happens, you know, life throws stuff at us, but beyond that or beneath that is this state of being. And I feel very fortunate that I have meditation in my life. I practice transcendental meditation, which is a mantra-based meditation practice, again based on very ancient techniques, and that is all about going beyond the mind. And I went into or found meditation found me, because I wanted to help myself. I was looking for something to relieve me of depression and stress and anxiety. I never envisaged that I would be gifted, you know, this tool that helps me to basically always find my center, always come back to this pure state. And I just, like you, I just wish that, you know, everyone was able to do this. And it's not just like a life hack. You know, like there are hacks for everything right now. Yeah, this is well, this goes well beyond that. And yeah, like you, I just wish that, you know, we could share it with everyone. But it is about the experience, isn't it? It's about for someone, because I was just like everyone else. I was just going through the motions, totally driven by my unconscious, you know, thoughts and beliefs. There was though something inside of me that, like you, thought there must be more to life than this. This just feels a bit flat and a bit kind of, yeah, can't really describe it, like not mundane, but a bit like, is this it? Yeah. This is why we're here on this earth. So I think for people to be able to take the first step, they often, like it was for me, need to find themselves maybe in a situation of crisis. Yeah, that life needs to kind of push them. And if it's okay with you, I would like to visit that place with you right now, because on your website you share about a point in your life where you actually wanted your life to end, and then at that moment you experience something that you describe as a miracle and totally transformational. And I wonder if you would share that with us.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to, actually. It's how I opened my book, Peace or Pain, you know, and it was a bit of a gutsy move, really, to put that, because you know, suicide can be a difficult topic for some people. But for me, I think it needs to be spoken about. I got to that lowest point. I didn't want to be here anymore. I wanted to end my life, and in attempting to end my life, but basically I was barely able to move. I was in absolute agony, and I remember dragging my body, really heavy body, on crutches because I couldn't lift my legs. So I could just about lift one leg a little bit, enough to push myself forward on the crutches and then drag the other leg. So I kind of dragged myself across my flat and into my kitchen. And I picked out a knife out of the drawer, and at that point my husband saw me, crumpled in a heap on the floor, literally about to cut my arm, because I'm just like, I'm done, absolutely done. And he hurried over as close as he dared to get to me and just started softly speaking to me, and I was pretty unreachable. It's just like, I can't do this anymore. Absolutely, I'm in so much pain, physically, mentally, and emotionally. There's absolutely no point for me. There's nothing for me. I can't, and not even no point. I can't survive this anymore. I can't do it. I was so exhausted. It's very wearing when you're in long-term chronic pain, and very high level as well, like through the roof, 24/7. And so, yeah, my poor husband, watching his wife, who he very much loved, at this low point, I suppose. And so, I was kind of like, all right, I love him, I'll listen, to what he has to say. And so I was just, transfixed. I was just looking at the knife against my skin, basically, at that point, because it's like you kind of get like really blinkered, and you can't see any possibility or any way out. And so, yeah, my husband just was gently speaking to me the whole time, and I'm not sure how much of that I took in, really. And he was actually holding our son in his arms, who was, I don't know, around 2 years old or something like that. And yeah, my son was just quiet the whole way through. They was holding him, but they just got to this point where he ran out of things to say, my husband, and he was just like, there trying to help and be there with me and help me. And then my son just kind of made this little gurgle in his throat, how young children do, just a very innocent, beautiful, melodic sound, actually. And my eyes just flicked up. I just flicked up and straight into his eyes. And there was just such a purity there, just such a depth. It's just like the eyes were, we say they're the window to the soul, aren't we? And it's just like, it wasn't just eyes there. It was just like I fell into his eyes in a way, and it just opened up instantaneously, like no steps to it. It's just, it's like the bottom fell out of the world and there was just nothing. It was just an immense, deeply peaceful, spacious, vast, expansive experience of absolute peace. There was no edges to the experience, nothing wrong, no sense of pain. The actual physical pain vanished within that experience too. I probably wouldn't have quite seen it in that way. There was just peace. There was no pain, there was no suffering, there was just nothing outside of that moment, that was just so deep and pure and beautiful. And I was transfixed. I was just utterly transfixed, and until my husband saw the change in me, and he reached over, took the knife off me, and then I, in that moment, they sort of faded a little bit. But I just remember thinking, wow, like I can go from my worst moment in my life to the best moment in my life that I didn't even know was possible, in a split second, and nothing physically changed. It's just my attention changed. In that absolute surrender, I opened up, and the purity that beams out of young children that's within us was accessible to me. It's like my son was the portal, or his eyes were the portal, I suppose, for that very natural experience that he was still able to have. And so, yeah, for me, that was then the starting point of the real searching, to go, right, if I can have that at my worst moment in my life, pretty sure I can have some level of that in my everyday life. And, it's not quite like an addiction, but a real strong drive and passion to seek to discover that experience for myself and make it sustainable, because I kind of just knew that was possible, because it was a direct experience rather than somebody telling me about what was possible. There was no doubt, no questions. There was just like, this is it. This is what's possible. And so, yeah, I then started on a quest to heal myself, really. But that quest changed, you know, to not try and heal myself, actually, to surrender to this moment, to accept the way my body is right now, to accept the thoughts, to accept everything. And actually, when you accept your non-peace, it transmutes into peace in an instant, like it did for me then. And so, yeah, it was just shortly after that I found the Ishayas, or they found me, and then I was given these amazing techniques that cultivate that experience. And so that experience now is actually, it's not so transcendent anymore, because it's quite normal for me now. You know, because I have that experience a fair bit of the time. You know, some days, you know, it's just there's just this, it's almost like silence is noisy, you know, like it's so alive and vibrant, and there's a sound to it now. It didn't used to be. It's taken a while for that experience to cultivate within me. So it's so easy in any given moment for me to choose for peace. You know, if any pain comes up, any stress, any mental, you know, thinking patterns that have caught my attention and are governing my experience, and it's just like, oh, I'm thinking, boom, it's gone, because I'm so well trained at that now. The techniques that cultivate your awareness muscle, so it doesn't contract down onto the thinking mind, and so you can kind of stay at the wide awareness. And it's the same way our eyes work, you know. To see clearly, we need a strong peripheral vision. And awareness is the same. We have our point of focus, but it can be blurry or distorted or not so good, you know, with vision. And it's the same with awareness. You know, the way we view the world is distorted by the thinking mind, by the filters in the mind. And so it's like putting colored lenses in, or just, you know, distorted lenses in that change the way you see and hear and experience the world. And so it's just having a technique to redirect you back to awareness, so you have the pure, clear experience of now. And so I want everyone to know that's possible for you. Everybody, it's your birthright. And if you want it, go for it. Absolutely go for it. Because that's all you've got to do. All you've got to do is choose for this. Like, I want this, and go for it, and it'll find you, and you'll have it. You can access it with or without techniques. The techniques just help to stabilize the experience.
Wow. I've been transfixed the whole time just listening to you. It felt almost like I got transported into that moment. It was very, very powerful in both ways. And I cannot not mention that again, that it was the babies for me today. And you've just described, you know, what happened with when you looked into your son's eyes. The babies were probably a similar age to what you've just described, and that it is within the eyes the window into what you like to sow, but also the universe. Basically, that's where we exist, really. I'm just trying to let that sink in. I hope people also connected with, you know, the energy of what you've just described, because it is incredibly powerful. Interesting that for you it was the experience of your physical body. For me, it was the emotional and the mind. I'm fortunate to have a healthy body, but it's always been my mind and my emotional state that caused me pain and suffering. And isn't that interesting how both can lead to a very similar path?
Absolutely. And, you know, like, although for me it was the physical pain that I was in, what I've recognized is I wasn't experiencing my body symptoms purely. The mind, there's a pain story, and there's an emotion is a story about a feeling, you know. So there's a difference between feeling and emotions. Feeling is a pure experience. We're always going to feel, there's always going to be thoughts, we're always going to have body sensations. But emotions, it's like a story wrapped around the feeling. And with physical pain, it's a story wrapped around the body symptoms. And so you actually experience your body and your feelings in a distorted way, and also an intensified way. You know, like we resist it. We learned to resist from a very young age. We were trained to, you know, like if you're angry, calm down. If you're crying, oh, it's okay, it's okay. Like
suppress it.
Yeah, you know, if people cry, so it makes some people very, very uncomfortable. So like you want to stop them, and you know, because you care, you want them to feel better. But that's a trap, you know, wanting somebody to feel better, you're actually part of the problem in a way, you know. You're holding them in that experience, you're seeing them as a victim, you know, or broken, and not necessarily consciously. But I've seen that with my own children, where, you know, it's like they kick back at me if I'm seeing them as broken, or I'm trying to fix them in any way. And when I let go of that, you know, sometimes things just resolve by themselves, and it's very empowering for them then for me to see them as whole and complete, just hold the space for them, listen to them. That's the greatest gift we can give anyone. You know, if you listen to somebody 100% without any need to reply or respond unless they ask for your opinion, it's the greatest gift. And for yourself too, because when you do that, when you're not in that reactive gotta respond mode, you're just listening and receptive, that's the natural state of being, of pure awareness again. So it's a win-win situation for you and the person you're listening to, even if they're being really rude to you, for example. You know, it's the most liberating thing to just listen to them and look for what's not being said. Look for, you know, the body language, you know, what's bothering them, because it'll be something that's bothering them from their world, their mind, their emotions, not me, you know. And that's the thing, is like, I think sometimes I used to identify that I was the one that was doing something wrong, you know, that was making them angry, or, you know, or they were just being rude. But no, I think when people are rude or angry or anything other than pleasant and kind and delightful, they're suffering in some way, they're struggling. And the compassion then to just be there for them, with them, and that can look ruthless too. Like as an Ishaya, we wear 3 different colors, and I'm, as you can see, currently wearing black. There's white and red too, but black is ruthless compassion. And sometimes that might be quite blunt, you know, it's absolutely delivering what's needed to be said in the moment. Although my experience of that is it's always more gentle, because it's pure and it's from unconditional love, as opposed to judgment. You know, there's a very different quality when you're ruthless from unconditional love and no judgment, than you are trying to sugarcoat your words to say the right thing to make it, you know, okay for them. They can actually feel that as harsh. So that's been quite eye-opening in communication to recognize that actually being present is the softest, gentlest, most open, most honest way of communicating that is heard more clearly by the other person.
Gosh, you've covered so much, so much. But I will try and trace my memory back to a couple of points. One is when you said about when someone is being unkind, when someone is acting in an maybe angry or aggressive way, they are suffering, and that the best gift you can give them is just to be in their presence and witness them with what they are sharing. There is no judgment, because you recognize the suffering. And I think this is one of the things that is an incredible, if you like, byproduct and a gift of being someone who practices meditation, because I just naturally, over time, it took time, got to a point where I was able just to be with people's emotions, with their states, and I could see beyond that. And it's not something like I attended a seminar and someone said, right, this is how it is. Yeah, this person's going to be blunt and horrible, and what you need to do is just listen to them. No, all of it, over time, suddenly I found myself like just feel this compassion for people, and it's quite magical. It's difficult to describe what kind of happens in that moment. I feel like I'm in like a bubble. Yeah, like the time slows down and I'm just kind of there. And the same happens with the children. That's the other point I wanted to say. And I think as parents, that is the absolute greatest gift. As a parent and as someone who works with children, we'll get to that. The absolute greatest gift we can or even if you want to call it teaching, whatever you want to call it, if we can pass down to them that their experience in childhood will be, I am here witnessing you with your emotion. Yeah, I'm letting you experience it, but I've created this safe space for you in which all is fine, everything is accepted. You are just you're fine. What you're doing is experience emotion, because emotion means energy, emotion. It needs to just pass through you, and then we're good again. And this is, when you watch really young children, they still have it. Yeah, they can switch from a massive cry, they fell, bruised their knees, they feel the physical pain. But if you can be there with them in that moment without attaching any of your kind of experiences of pain from you, then they just switch back like really quickly. Yeah, the physical pain kind of passes, and that. So it's really, that reminded me of many moments where, I don't know if you ever had that or notice other children. So there's a moment like they fall, they kind of, yeah, it hurts, right? Okay, you've experienced physical symptoms of pain, and then there's like a moment when they look at you like, what's your reaction? Yeah, am I okay? Is the world still safe, or am I supposed to panic? Yeah, and you can see like the reaction of the parent or the carer is crucial at this point. But if they go, oh my God, what happened? Then the kid actually may start crying. Yeah, but if they like, oh yeah, you hurt yourself, let me see, yeah, then the kid probably may stay quite calm. So that's beside the point. But I want to now hear about your experience teaching meditation to children, because that's my cup of tea very much. That's where I am. And I know you've started a few months back, can't remember. Yeah, teaching meditation to children at schools. What's your experience with that? Would you share it with us?
Yeah, sure. It's like a huge privilege, really, to be able to do that. And for me, I think it was quite a shocking experience. Like, I'm actually no longer doing it, because
Okay.
we had a difference of opinion, the person whose company it was. And for me, I was doing the course material given. I mean, I kept moving from that to what I kind of know works, because I've worked with children before. And they're incredibly stressed, and they need more adults in some of the classes just to be able to manage all the different needs of the children right now. And it was just really obvious that the school environment right now is not nurturing. It's not letting the children just be themselves. And so, in some of the sessions that I was doing, where I just adapted, and there was one particular session with some year 5 children, and I think that's like 9-10 years old. And the whole class there was some of them that just were getting at each other, like they were just winding each other up, and it was a very unruly class. And I just got us all in a circle, and I said, right, I'm just going to select you one at a time. Those that are sitting quietly will probably get selected first, just encourage them to listen. And then we just praised them. We just, each child, we just went around the circle. So whoever was sat in the middle was being praised. And then all of their classmates would just say something really lovely about them. You're good at art, or you're good at maths, or you're good at football, or you got pretty eyes, lovely hair, or you're really kind, you're a good friend, or just whatever. And it was amazing to hear the things that they came up with. And there was a couple of people that were sort of one girl and a boy that were kind of just backbiting at each other, and it was so lovely to have them sat in the middle, and then the other one say something kind about them, and it just totally discharged the environment. And the teachers were like, whoa, they were really impressed with it. So I'm like, you need to keep this going. Like, this needs to be not just this one-off event that some lovely lady comes in and does with you, but that you actually integrate it into your school day. I don't think it would take much actually to integrate into school days, just to make the children feel appreciated, to be seen and heard. And so, yeah, it was quite transformative. And by the end of it, we didn't have time to do all of them. And so the teacher was like, I'm like, write down everyone, that hasn't gone, so that we can do them first next time. And And that for me was just, that was just really beautiful. But some of the teachers are amazing in the schools, and some of them, and I'm not judging them, like they are stressed. And that for me is, I'm quite passionate about this, that we don't judge people, that we don't, blame actually serves no purpose. And actually I'm writing another book which is about the relationship between adults and children, and the working title at the moment is Peace for Parents and Teachers equals Peace for Children. Because so often I've had parents come to me and going, oh, my child's really stressed, can you do something for them? And yes, I can. But for me, it's like, we need to look at you as well. Like, children, like the example you gave, when a child falls down and hurts themselves, they look to the parents. So much that children do is they look at the example given to them. If you lose it and hit them when you're really stressed, oh, that's what you do. And so and it's not judging parents. It's so important to come away from judgment and blame and shame, because actually you're going to be more stressed and you're going to do this behavior and it's compulsive, and you like, then you feel ashamed, maybe shout at your child, and then later you're like, oh my God, I wish I hadn't said that, or I hadn't done that, or even if you don't hit your children, like me, I have actually hit my children, I think 3 or 4 times, certainly more my son, because he got a little bit more unruly before I understood the autism. But it's so important to come away from the judgment, and certainly the self-violence towards myself. I was so harsh on myself because I was acting in ways with my children I didn't want to, and I couldn't always stop myself, and so it's so important that we nurture the teacher's experience, the parents' experience, so that they can actually emit this calm, hold the space, be there calm, while the child has either a tantrum mentally or emotionally, or they're physically hurt, or whatever their upset is, that we can actually just be there for them. And that for me is the foundation for changing the relationship in the generations, that we actually listen to our young. They are the best teachers, like maybe older people are thought of as the wise ones, but actually I see much more wisdom for my children sometimes, than the older generation of myself. And for me, I think that's how society will work more smoothly, is that we kind of take the best from each generation, listen and let everyone have a say, and let what serves best in this moment inform themselves, and to give techniques to children and recreate the school environment so they feel safe and happy and contented first. And then the rest of the sessions, when I did that, they listened to you. There's not even a need to control their behavior, because you've just got their attention now. You've given them permission to let go, to just be, that they're not doing anything wrong. And then the whole dynamic is completely different. And so for me, that will be the next step, is finishing that book. And then I came across a few schools called Concilium Academies in the north of England. Based on me realizing that just going in and doing a 40-minute session for children once a week's not enough. We need to have it integrated into the daily life, and this school is doing that. They're taking children with attendance from 0% up to just 18, like really, really low attendance. And they're nurturing their well-being. They're getting them, having a half hour at the beginning of the day so that they could just wind down and be ready to learn. Just have fun, just play, just breathe and be. And then they've I think they've got about an 86% attendance, and that's quite impressive to take a child from 0 to 20% attendance all the way up to 86. And not because you're forcing or making or doing anything other than just letting the children feel safe and happy in the environment, ready to learn, and then they learn. And they probably then learn a lot faster, because I just don't think learning happens. They're forced into memorizing, but I don't think they really learn and understand how to learn, for themselves, until they're happy and peaceful.
Oh, you just like spoke from my heart. This is exactly where I see the road moving. It starts with the parent-child relationship, everything you've described about how to nurture, create a safe space. The learning is then just a byproduct, isn't it? Because we are born curious, we are born, wired to want to learn. I mean, you can just, like you said, just observe young children, they forever want to kind of, discover things and learn. It's in our nature, but needs the right environment and it needs the right relationship. And what you've just described is that you've created an environment in which they can trust you, in which they are seen and they're heard and they're validated and feel safe, obviously. And then, you know, miracles can happen. I mean, they're not miracles. That's kind of how the things are. And it's quite sad. And sometimes I just kind of hit my head against the wall about how everything is driven through control and force, and the true nature of how we learn, what we need as human beings, is completely kind of sidelined. Um, yeah, so thank you so much for
And
sharing
to
that,
come
because
away from
it just reinforced and confirmed to me that working with the parents is incredibly important. And if we can get to the teachers, even better. And it needs to become part of the school life. It's not like you said, like someone comes in, we tick a box, we did a well-being day, and we carry on. The whole dynamic of the relationship needs to happen.
and to come
And it
away
doesn't
from
and it
controlling.
doesn't have to, it doesn't it doesn't take long. Doesn't require a massive investment of time, not at all. Yeah, and then I interrupted you. Sorry, you were going to respond.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were done. Yeah, just to come away from controlling the children, because that's one of the reasons why I didn't carry on in the job, was because I was told I wasn't controlling the children well enough. And for me, I'm like, good. I don't actually want to, and I think
Mm,
I saw how I was trying to do that, because that's what I was being told I needed to do in that job. And
mm,
for me, it's great, and they're doing a great service. But for me, that doesn't sit right with what I
mm,
see and what I know is
mm,
possible. And sometimes I think you need to kind of let the class run riot and everything go, like, don't be afraid of it, going wrong.
mm,
I think when you let go of the control, you can actually get to the heart of why it's out of control.
mm,
And that for
mm,
me can be much more effective quickly. So you're not spending all this time and energy, because I actually got quite tired. I was actually really
mm,
grateful to stop doing it, because I was having to control them.
mm,
That's what the environment was.
mm,
Some schools were different than others, and some let me
mm,
just get on with it, and
mm,
that was fabulous. And that's where we saw the biggest differences.
mm,
And I think, as parents and as teachers, if we can recognize that if you're just having to control the children, there's something wrong that needs
mm,
addressing.
mm,
And if you address that, you won't have to control them anymore. You'll have
mm,
excited to learn children who are happy and content and calm,
mm,
and will work with you. They'll listen. You won't have to
mm,
keep saying, listen, you need to just be quiet and listen. You won't have to keep saying that, because they will just listen, because you're inspiring them,
mm,
and every need is considered.
mm.
Very important foundation for learning,
Well, the very foundation.
for adults and children
Well,
too.
yes. Yeah, you can, this is it, like imagine a workplace environments where, again, if there's a problem, you sit people in a circle, you let everyone have their say, or make nice comments about their colleagues. Imagine, the culture, or the environment in which, I'd love to come to a job like that, where you'll be kind of supported in this way by your colleagues. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, there's this uh, approach that a traditional society uses, that's called Ubuntu.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ubuntu. Have you seen that? And when somebody in their community commits a crime, does something wrong, however atrocious or small it is,
Mm,
they sit them in the middle of their, village square, or whatever it is, the
mm,
place that they hang out at, and they just keep saying kind things about them. So,
mm,
like the praise exercise for me,
mm.
and I see
Yeah.
how that changes, but to
Mm,
actually apply it to the person. So when I was doing that, rather than just picking the ones that were sitting there quietly. That was my plan in the first place, because that's what I was told to do, pick the ones that are sitting there quietly. And I actually switched it out, and I
Yeah.
like the ones that weren't sitting there quietly, the ones that were being rude and aggressive, and I picked them. And you put them in the middle, and then the whole village would just say, nice things to them, and until they would see the nice things in themselves.
Yeah.
And then there was no need to punish the behavior. The behavior just stopped, because
Exactly.
there was no need for them to act in that way anymore. It's like, what need is not being met? If you meet the needs, there's no violence in society, there's no stealing, there's no nothing.
There's that. And there's also the basic notion that we are all good in, in our core. We are all born good people. And I think that's what maybe is difficult for a lot of people, because they've lived most of their life being pointed out to the wrongs of, horrible things other people did, as if the behavior and the actions make that person. But actually this kind of turns it on its head, is that no, you start off good, and then things happen, and then you learn to kind of react in a certain way. So yeah, I love the concept. And when I first learned about it, I said, yeah. And I know that sometimes it would even take like a couple of days. Yeah, if it was a really bad thing that the person did, an actual crime, but they would sit there until that person, yeah, felt good. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm loving our conversation, but I'm also conscious of the time, and maybe there's just one area I'd like to visit with you before we start wrapping up, and that is, you've mentioned surrender before, and mentioned about how it's helped you to get your I guess the lens through which you see the world, completely changed. Would you like to spare a few moments just telling us about what is surrender to you, how it helped you?
Yeah, surrender is everything to me. It's a continual surrender every day, really, and like presence, being present is a state of surrender. Like we're surrendered the whole time, and it's very different from putting up with. Like I used to see surrender in this way, as I was never going to give up. I was never going to surrender. I was never going to hand over to another person, because that's kind of how I saw surrender, that it was just like it was my way or somebody else's way. And really surrender, true surrender is surrendering to yourself. And it's surrendering the full self, all the thoughts and the emotions, surrendering that to the pure awareness self, the real self, that which is aware of the thoughts and emotions. And surrender is so powerful, because the cause of suffering isn't the thing that's happening. It's the resistance to the thing that is happening that causes the suffering. So if you can surrender, land in this moment and let everything be exactly as it is for a moment, it really opens up a huge amount of space for a solution to arise, or actually just the energy and the dynamic shifts and changes, just because you're now present. You're in a state of acceptance. You're not pushing anything away. So there's no friction and pressure. It's like you become like air. And so anything that comes at you, nothing sticks, nothing, it just all goes through you and out the other side. So you don't have to have a defense mechanism. You don't have to push anything away. You actually welcome it all in, and that which is useful stays with you as long as it's useful for, and everything else just, passes on by. And it's such a easy way to live your life. And I was actually going to write the next book about the children, the Peace for Parents equals Peace for Children, a year ago, but this book about surrender just popped up. It's like it was just downloaded, when you just totally hear, and just the information just came through, and then I just was the conduit, and it came through, and I put it into a book. And it's so helpful, I think, to look at surrender in all the different areas of your life, all the ways that we actually can resist or repress, or make lives harder for ourselves. And it's actually quite easy to just look at every area, and just if you just few minor adjustments, and you're surrendering, and then it's easy, and you have so much more clarity as well. I used to get a lot of confusion when I was trying to make a decision, And you know, it's like there's a muddied water, you know, that your consciousness is muddied, and you can't see with clarity. And if you fully surrender, then actually the space and the clarity that arises within that space, you know, enables decisions to be made through me without any deliberation, any thinking, any analyzing. The intuition runs the show, and it's just like a direct knowing of what serves and what doesn't serve. And you know, that's our original operating mode. We can operate like that. We don't have to think. We can just actually have a direct cognition. To cognize means to know directly, so that's the intuitive skill and talent that we all have. It's an innate ability that we have, and it's just as we surrender, then we're switching from thinking mode into, you know, intuitive mode. And then for me, that changes every aspect of your life. It just gives a very gentle, easy experience now, because you don't use up any energy pushing anything away or trying to change anything. You work with the hand you're dealt. And sometimes I think things that we push away are the things that help us the most. Like we see, because when there's a distortion when you're resisting something, you see it in a certain way. It's almost like you've colored it over with a black crayon or something, like bad, wrong. When you actually accept it, surrender, sometimes there are qualities in there that, oh, you can use that, you can harness that. That's actually useful. It's not what I thought it was. You know, it's like you have a bigger picture view of the world when you surrender. You know, rather than like a little peephole through on the toe of an elephant, and you're like, you know, well, it's an archway, and you don't see the whole of the elephant. You don't know it's an elephant because you can only see a fraction of the image. And so the thinking mind if you're thinking, you're resisting for a start. It's the same thing, really. There's a distortion in your experience when you're thinking, and you might resist emotionally as well. And if you can just let the thoughts be here, let the emotion be here, it leaves, because it's movement. You know, you're the pure still awareness. You're that which does not change and does not move. Awareness doesn't. And then everything else comes through, and it's a smooth, gentle experience of it. That which doesn't serve, isn't useful right now, you don't grab it. So it's left before it's even arrived sometimes. And so that just makes life much more gentle and easy.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like pure bliss. So to someone who is listening and is really taking it all in, I think, and just this one part about surrender is just very difficult to kind of make practical. I mean, they're thinking, well, how do I do this? How do I surrender? So how has it been for you, or what would you share that would help with to the viewers?
So for me, what we were talking about before, I think is the number one way that makes life easier is to just work with sound, to just listening to sound. And again, if you're in a conversation with somebody, just listen for what's not being said, listen for what other sounds you're hearing, because it widens your awareness, and it's a bit more tangible than just trying to be still and aware now. Because the sound can, you know, it's just like little anchors to just draw your attention wide. So it's something that you can do in any given moment when you can recognize you're resisting or life feels difficult or you're suffering, is to just listen for what sounds you can hear. You know, listen for if somebody's speaking, you know, listen to the quality of the voice, the sound of the voice, to the silence underlying the sound, because the context of silence is the bigger part. And in order for us to discern that there is sound, that to understand the words that are being spoken, we have to have an experience, an awareness of silence too. So listen for silence, listen for other sounds. And that for me has been, and still is, you know, a very transformative and easy thing to apply. And, you know, that's why I wrote the book, Surrender is Good for the Soul, because that has an awful lot of things that you can apply in your everyday life. So it's not just a theoretical book. It's very much, you know, each chapter, they're quite small and compact and very easy to read, you know, just one in, you know, a few minutes. And then there's something to apply for the day, you know. A little bit like, you know, when you have the card decks and you just pick one for the day, and it's just like pick a chapter, and then that kind of gives you something to explore and implement in your everyday life, so you can actually harness a surrender, so you can actually cultivate that as a direct experience and recognize all the ways that you're resisting, you know, so that until you see where you're resisting, you can't actually apply surrender because you don't recognize it. So an awful lot of it is about raising awareness, becoming more alert and present and attentive, so that you can actually have a choice for a start, and see what choice, you know, would make things easier.
Perfect. That sounds just like a textbook mindfulness activity. Tune into the sounds, use your senses. I love that. Thank you so much. I was thinking about myself a little bit. And when it applies to yourself, so say you're not struggling to be present with other people, but it's stuff in your head, is there a different approach to helping yourself be in the surrender mode?
Well, you can apply it in the same way, but then
Yeah.
you're just listening to sounds, you know. So I actually had an experience with somebody who was really struggling in the moment. They were very from really in a state of panic, and immense anxiety, and it was a very unstable experience, and they just couldn't calm down from it. And I was kind of working with them, you know, what can you see? What can you hear, and things like that. And I just became aware that, you know, they were just listing the things in the room, like they were kind of, it's like it's almost like they just couldn't go beyond that. And, you know, we were in Brighton at the time, and it's just like I could hear seagulls, and they hadn't mentioned the seagulls. So I just asked, you know, what can you hear the seagulls? And, you know, in order for them to do that, they had to stop and pay attention and listen. And just in listening for what sound can you hear right now? Like ticking clock, the fan of my laptop, the first things I can hear. And then to keep listening, what else can I hear? What else? And so then you're in then you just become present. You just become in that pure witnessing mode and attentive mode. That's our natural state to be. So you can explore just with what sounds you can hear in your environment, and then you might hear traffic, birds, whatever, and you start to hear what's outside of your building, and then you can still play with, well, what else can I hear? And then you might even notice just silence. And it's just a very good way to become present. And, you know, that's the operating mode of you know, the surrendered state of being anyway. So it sounds I think the number one thing that anyone can use, that's so accessible and easy to apply, and a lot more tangible than, you know, just watch. Kind of gives you something, you know, an instruction that's much more durable for everyone.
And also, we are so used to using our eyes so much. It's really powerful to engage the other senses, like sense of hearing, touch, and smell is amazing as well. I love that. Thank you so much. I wonder if you would leave some last words with you know, with the audience, something like if you have a message or some words to just conclude our conversation, that would be amazing.
Yeah, you got this. You got this. You know, like I think sometimes we feel so helpless, and they're out of control. Life can feel so out of control, but you've got this, you know. And whatever you want in life, all you've got to do is decide, you know, get really clear on what you want, and the way will appear. You know, like you will be supported in life. And I think for me, if you can just let go of the self-violence for a moment and just appreciate yourself, you know. Sometimes it's easier to just be grateful and write down all the things that you're grateful for in your life, but to just appreciate, because appreciation is the opposite of criticism, you know. And actually that's one thing that it can be an active exercise that you explore with, to almost intend to have a complaint fast, you know, that you see all of the ways that you might complain and criticize in the world. And I know whenever I've played with this, it really becomes an exercise of just seeing how much you're complaining and criticizing, but we're really playful with it. And, you know, and then you can just redirect your attention onto 3 positive things every time you notice something negative. So you're just, you know, transforming onto what you want more of. Because in any given moment, we often look at the world with what's wrong, with that lens of there's something wrong, in order to make it better. Whereas actually, if you can look for what's good in your world, and appreciation and gratitude enable you to do that, to see all of the good stuff, And then like attracts like, so you're then going to magnetize the good
Yeah.
stuff, rather than often we're magnetizing the bad stuff and then we're going, oh, why is everything going wrong again? That's our focus.
Yes.
Is on what's wrong. So if you can focus what's right, what's good, what do you like, what do you want more of, and life, yeah, just that's very transformative.
Absolutely. I totally, yeah, agree with that. That's worked miracles for me in the past as well. Is even in the word appreciate is what that grows, right? So if you put your attention and focus on what you want more of in life with appreciating it, it will, like you just said. So
The doorway to abundance.
beautiful concluding words. Thank you so much, Meera, for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I wish you all the best with writing the next book. I'm really excited about it. And maybe speak to you another time. We'll see. Yeah. Thank you again.
You're very welcome, and I'd love to speak to you again.
Bye for now, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.